The chamber was vast, filled with the sounds of laughter that did not belong to humans. Alien voices echoed like metallic bells and deep growls, each mocking the figure, who stood alone under a circle of light. A single human ambassador faced the crowd, his eyes steady, though every screen around him displayed images of Earth's chaos. Holograms showed burning cities, hungry children, endless wars fought by humans against their own kind. The aliens roared in amusement. "Primitive children," one tall creature hissed, its skin shining like glass. "They still kill each other over dirt. They still bleed for symbols." Another voice followed, cold and sharp. "Earth is a doomed world, weak, no place in the Council of Stars." The laughter grew louder, filling the grand arena of 1,000 species. But the human did not bow his head. He let the insults rain like stones. Then, in a voice low and steady, almost a whisper, he said words that silenced even the boldest alien. "You will regret giving us time." The laughter paused, then returned louder than before, but the man's words remained, echoing in the memory of every species present. And far away, deep beneath Earth's oceans, where no alien eyes could see, machines were working in silence. For decades, Earth had been hiding a secret, a laboratory buried under miles of salt water, powered by volcanic vents, built by hands that never appeared in alien records. There, human scientists studied fragments of alien technology stolen, bought, or found in battle wreckage. Every piece of metal, every shard of code was taken apart and reassembled by restless human minds. What the galaxy mocked as ignorance, humanity had turned into obsession. A single scientist, gray-haired and sleepless, was the first to see the shape of an answer. He discovered a forbidden equation, one whispered only in rumors among ancient alien texts. It was the mathematics of starlight, a way to bend the burning heart of suns. He tested it on simulations, and stars in his models flared like torches, collapsing before their time. He did not smile when he succeeded. He only wrote in his notes, "We are no longer children." Months later, the first signs reached alien fleets. Patrol ships sent near Earth simply vanished. No distress signals, no wreckage, only silence. At first, the Council mocked again. "The humans are clumsy." They destroyed themselves. But soon, more fleets disappeared. Entire squadrons were swallowed at the border of the solar system, leaving only faint radiation in the dark. Fear began to ripple among the mighty species who once laughed. They gathered in council chambers, voices raised, debating whether Earth had found a weapon or had awakened something far worse. The decision came swiftly. War. The galaxy would crush Earth before its secrets grew too dangerous. Thousands of ships filled the stars, their weapons brighter than suns, their engines roaring like storms. They moved toward Earth, certain that this small blue world would burn in weeks. On Earth, sirens wailed across cities, but humans did not run. Soldiers stood ready. Scientists prepared their final calculations, and the oceans shook with the hum of hidden machines. The first wave of alien fleets entered the system, spreading wide, surrounding the planet from every direction. They fired their weapons, but before their shots reached Earth, the sun flared unnaturally bright. In an instant, the heart of the solar system became a weapon. The human experiment had worked. The sun's light bent, its fire twisted into a spear. Dozens of alien ships melted in silence, their hulls breaking like glass in a storm of fire. The survivors fled, but the humans had prepared traps not only in their own sun, but in stars across nearby systems. When enemy fleets jumped to other stars, they found burning traps waiting. Suns ignited in unnatural fury, collapsing or exploding, tearing fleets apart. It was as if humanity had reached into the heavens themselves and turned the stars into weapons. Fear spread faster than war. The aliens who once mocked Earth watched in horror as their fleets burned, not by guns or missiles, but by the very stars they had trusted for life. Across the galaxy, silence replaced laughter. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a weak world, no longer a child among the stars. The same species once mocked for chaos had mastered the fire of suns. In secret, in darkness, humans had learned not to fear the galaxy. They had learned to make the galaxy fear them. The human ambassador stood once more in a chamber of alien leaders. This time there was no laughter, no jeers, only eyes filled with caution. He looked at them steady as before and spoke again. "Are you called as children?" he said. "But children grow. Children learn. And when they are mocked, when they are beaten, when they are left in the dirt, they rise stronger than before. You mocked Earth, you gave us time, and now the stars burn with our hands. Silence filled the chamber. For the first time, the galaxy understood the truth. Humanity had been the smallest voice in the council, the weakest hand on the table. But now, with suns themselves as their shields and weapons, the balance of power had changed forever. The lesson was written in fire across the stars. Mocking Earth had been their greatest mistake. The galaxy had not known silence like this in centuries. Entire councils, once filled with arguments and laughter, now spoke in whispers. The memory of burning fleets still haunted every admiral who had seen their ships vanish in the fire of twisted stars. Humanity had risen, not with diplomacy, not with patience, but with a weapon no one thought possible. They had bent suns to their will, and though the humans had won their first battles, the galaxy was far from surrendering. On the homeworlds of the elder species, fear mixed with fury. "The humans cannot be allowed to grow unchecked," growled a reptilian warlord, his claws carving lines into a steel table. "If they have one sun, we must strike at 10. If they hide weapons in stars, then we will learn to break them before they ignite." Another, a crystalline being whose voice rang like chimes, answered coldly, "And if we fail? If we provoke them further? You saw what happened." The humans turned their sun into a blade. No species has ever done this. No species should. While the council argued, Earth was not idle. Beneath oceans, in mountains, even in orbiting stations, humans worked day and night. The scientists who had cracked the forbidden equation were no longer alone. Hundreds studied the weapon's effects, searching for control, searching for limits. And quietly they whispered fears of their own. "What if we cannot control it?" one asked in the deep-sea lab. "What if the sun itself is pushed too far?" But the answer came from a general who stood behind them. "Control is not our goal. Fear is." Across Earth, ordinary people began to change as well. Where once there had been shame at alien mockery, there was now pride. The story of the ambassador's words spread like fire. "You will regret giving us time." Children painted suns on walls. Soldiers wore emblems of burning stars. And leaders spoke with new confidence. For the first time in history, Earth felt united. Every nation knew the truth. The galaxy did not see them as equals, but as prey. And prey had only two choices: to hide or to bite back. Yet humanity's new weapon came with a shadow. The aliens who had once laughed were no longer mocking. They were planning. Entire fleets of spies moved through the void, hunting for the secret of Earth's starlight equation. Some whispered that rogue scientists among the aliens had already begun their own experiments. If another species cracked the code, the galaxy itself could collapse into fire. And so Earth prepared for the next phase of war, not just with ships and weapons, but with silence. They sealed their borders, cut off alien merchants, and filled their skies with patrols. Earth had become a fortress. But war was never only fought with weapons. Far across the galaxy, on a world of black stone and silver clouds, an alien diplomat met with others in secret. They were not warriors, but survivors, species that had suffered under humanity's sudden rise. "If the humans spread their weapon, the stars themselves will not be safe," said one. "We must break them from the inside. Find their weaknesses. Find the cracks in their unity." Another added, "We cannot defeat their suns, but perhaps we can turn their pride against them." Thus began the quiet war, whispers. Sabotage and betrayal. On Earth, strange accidents began. A power grid collapsed in South America. A research station in the Arctic exploded without warning. A ship carrying scientists vanished in orbit, leaving only a trail of debris. Each time humans suspected alien hands, but proof was scarce. The Council denied involvement, claiming innocence. But the ambassador who once whispered in defiance now spoke in rage. "If you strike from the shadows, then we will bring the shadows down with fire." And then came the turning point. A fleet of alien raiders, not tied to any council but hungry for power, attacked a human colony on Mars. They expected easy prey. What they found was a trap. The colony had been bait, its signal broadcasting weakness. As the raiders descended, the Martian sky burned with hidden weapons. The humans did not call their sun this time. They used what they had learned from it. Artificial suns, miniature and unstable, burst like bombs across the battlefield. Ships melted, raiders screamed, and Mars remained untouched. The message was clear. Humanity's weapons were no longer only in the stars. They carried the fire with them now. The galaxy trembled. If Earth could burn suns and create them in war, then no world was safe. Some species began to consider surrender, while others whispered of desperate alliances. The war did not end with silence. Though the Council feared humanity, though entire fleets had been burned in suns, there were always those who refused to bow. In the hidden corners of the galaxy, far from Earth's eyes, the strongest species gathered in secret. Warlords, scientists, and leaders met in a chamber carved into the heart of a dying star. They did not come to debate. They came to build a weapon. The humans had their starlight equation, a formula that bent suns into spears. But the galaxy was older, and in its history lay things even more dangerous. Buried in forgotten ruins on a frozen world, an artifact had been found, a machine from a time before memory. It pulsed with strange light, cold and steady as if alive. The aliens called it the Null Core. Unlike humanity's weapon, which fed on stars, the Null Core devoured energy itself. Where it passed, suns dimmed, ships froze, and even thought seemed slower. The warlords who touched it felt terror but also power. If humanity had found a way to make the stars burn brighter, then the Null Core would make them die in silence. Back on Earth, the scientists worked without rest. They knew alien spies were hunting them, but they pressed forward. Every test of their weapons grew bolder. Miniature suns on warships, planetary shields powered by bending light, even whispers of bending black holes themselves. Yet not all humans agreed. In secret halls of government, leaders argued, "If we keep building these weapons, we will destroy not only our enemies but ourselves," one minister warned. Another, a general scarred from battle, answered sharply, "We do not have a choice. If we stop, they will use our own fire against us. This is survival." The room fell silent, for no one could argue with survival, but unity began to crack. Some nations feared handing such power to a single council on Earth. Others demanded control of the technology for themselves. Suspicion grew, and whispers spread of betrayal from within. Humanity's greatest strength, their unity born from alien mockery, was beginning to weaken. And the aliens knew it. The first sign of the Null Core came not with fire but with silence. A human outpost orbiting a distant star suddenly went dark. No distress call, no explosion, only silence. When a rescue fleet arrived, they found the station frozen, its systems dead, its crew lifeless, their bodies stiff as if time itself had slowed. The star nearby burned weaker than before, its light dim as though something had drained its heart. Scientists examined the wreck and whispered, "This is not natural. Something has stolen the star itself." Fear spread across Earth. For the first time, humanity faced a power they did not understand. The ambassador returned to the alien council, demanding answers. "What weapon have you made?" he thundered, his voice echoing across the chamber. "You dare to play with forces that will kill us all?" But the council only stared back, silent, each afraid to reveal the truth. For even among themselves, the Null Core was kept secret. Soon more outposts fell. Stars dimmed across the edges of the galaxy. Ships vanished without trace. Human admirals began to panic. "We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see," one whispered in a war room beneath the Atlantic. "If they can drain our suns, then our own weapons will turn against us." The scientist who had first cracked the starlight equation listened in silence, then finally spoke. "If they have made darkness, then we must make light stronger. We cannot stop now. We must go further than before." His words carried weight but also danger. And so Earth made a choice. While fleets patrolled their skies, while spies hunted alien saboteurs, the scientists began their most dangerous project yet. They called it Project Dawn. If it succeeded, humanity would not only bend starlight, they would create it from nothing. A weapon of pure light, brighter than any sun, carried inside ships that could bring day to the darkest corner of the galaxy. But failure would mean burning their own worlds. Meanwhile, in the shadow of a dying star, the warlords tested the Null Core. They placed it near a captured sun, and before their eyes, the fire dimmed. The star's light faded to a cold red, then collapsed into nothingness. Whole planets in the system froze. Their skies turned black, their oceans hardened into ice. The warlords smiled. "Let the humans burn stars," one growled, "and we will make the stars die." The galaxy trembled between two extremes, Earth's fire and the Council's silence. And in the middle, ordinary species, neither strong nor weak, prayed for survival. Some began to look at humanity not as a threat, but as hope. For though Earth burned suns, They did so in defense, while the Null Core promised only death for all. Whispers spread, small species asking, if we must choose between fire and void, perhaps fire is the only chance. On Earth, the ambassador stood before his people once more. His face was hard, his voice steady. They mocked us once, he said. Then they feared us. Now they seek to erase us with silence. But we will not be erased. We will rise brighter. If they steal our stars, we will build new ones. If they bring the night, we will bring dawn. His words echoed across the world, broadcast to every city, every station, every ship in orbit. Humanity had chosen its path, but as the fleets prepared, as Project Dawn advanced, the shadows grew longer. The Null Core moved closer to Earth, carried by fleets that hid in the darkness between stars. And for the first time, humanity realized this war was not only about victory, it was about survival of light itself. The sky above Earth was calm, but beneath the calm stretched fear. Project Dawn was no longer a whisper, it was reality. In a hidden facility orbiting the moon, the brightest minds of humanity stood before a machine unlike anything built before. It looked like a sphere of glass filled with liquid fire, pulsing as if alive. Wires and conduits wrapped around it like veins, carrying its light into armored casings. The scientists called it the Seed of Day. If it worked, it would create a star within a ship's heart, a weapon brighter than suns, burning without limits. If it failed, it would consume everything near it, leaving nothing but ash. Generals and politicians stood behind glass, watching as engineers prepared the first test. The ambassador himself was there, his hands folded, his face hard. He remembered the laughter in the alien council, the mockery of his people, the jeers that had once broken Earth's pride. Now he watched with eyes that carried both hope and dread. Power at 20%, a voice said over the speakers. The seed pulsed brighter. Stabilizers engaged. Containment holding. For a moment, everything seemed calm. Then the lights flickered. Sirens wailed. The seed's fire surged, pressing against its prison of glass and steel. "It's breaking through!" someone shouted. Panic rippled across the control room. Engineers scrambled, shutting down conduits, diverting power. Just as the alarms screamed their loudest, the seed dimmed, shrinking into a steady glow. Silence followed, broken only by labored breaths. One scientist fell into his chair, whispering, "It lives." Project Dawn had survived its first breath. Humanity had created light, but there was no time to celebrate. Across the galaxy, the Null Core moved like a shadow. A fleet carried it, cloaked in silence, draining every star it passed. Where it traveled, suns dimmed, planets froze, stations went dark. Even species not aligned with the Council began to fear. Entire systems begged Earth for help, sending desperate messages. "Save us." "We choose fire over night." For the first time, humanity heard voices calling them not monsters but saviors. The ambassadors of weaker races came to Earth secretly, cloaked ships landing in hidden bays. Small beings with thin limbs, winged creatures, water breathers, they all came with trembling hands. "If the Null Core spreads," one said, "none of us will live. You are the only ones who can fight them. We beg you, burn the stars if you must, but do not let the light die." This was new. Humanity, once mocked, once spat upon, was now seen as hope. It gave strength to Earth's leaders, but also weight. For every ally gained, the cost of failure grew heavier. The first battle came sooner than expected. A listening post near Jupiter detected a strange silence. No signals, no radiation, only emptiness. Scouts sent to investigate did not return. Humanity knew what it meant. The Null Core had arrived. The war room filled with urgency. "Deploy the Dawn prototype," a general ordered. "We test it in battle or we die in darkness." A single warship, the Solaris, carried the seed. Its crew was sworn to secrecy, sworn to sacrifice. Families wept as the ship left orbit, vanishing into the dark toward Jupiter. The ambassador watched it go, whispering the words he had spoken once before. "You will regret giving us time." The Solaris entered the silence. No stars shone here. Jupiter, massive and red, looked like a corpse. The Null Core floated near the planet, pulsing with cold light. Around it, alien ships formed a wall, weapons charged. The captain of the Solaris gave no speech. He only ordered, "Release the seed." The ship trembled as the containment broke. Light poured from its heart, flooding corridors, blinding sensors. The seed screamed like a newborn star, tearing its way into reality. In an instant, the dark around Jupiter blazed white. Alien ships caught in its radius melted, their hulls dripping like wax. The null core pulsed in anger, its cold light pushing back, swallowing the edges of the newborn star. For a moment, fire and shadow clashed, day against night. The crews on Earth watched through trembling feeds as light and dark devoured each other. The Solaris did not survive. Its hull cracked, its crew vanished in fire, but their sacrifice was not empty. The galaxy held its breath. Stars dimmed at the edge of known space as the null core moved, swallowing light, leaving only cold behind. Where it passed, life ended. Where it lingered, planets froze into lifeless stone. The weaker species prayed, and their prayers carried one name now: Earth. Humanity answered. The shipyards above Earth burned with new creation. Massive carriers rose from orbit, their bellies filled with weapons forged in secret. At their hearts pulsed the seeds of day, each one a newborn sun caged and waiting to be unleashed. They were no longer prototypes. They were warships, humanity's first dawn fleet. The fleet's departure shook the skies. Children watched with wide eyes as fire lit the heavens. Families wept, but their tears were proud. Every ship carried not only soldiers, but the weight of an entire world's survival. Even allies, small races once ignored by the Council, sent escorts, fragile but willing. Together they formed an armada of light, and at its center flew the flagship Helios, commanded by a woman whose voice carried like steel. Her name was Admiral Cade, and her words became a promise. We are not prey. We are the dawn. The Dawn Fleet reached the edge of darkness, where the null core had silenced suns. It was worse than the reports. An entire system hung dead, its star no brighter than coal, its planet's shadows drifting in eternal night. And there, in the void, the enemy waited. Hundreds of alien ships, their hulls black as stone, surrounded the null core like worshippers guarding a god. The core itself pulsed with hunger, devouring the faint light that dared to linger. Admiral Cade gave the order. Form the shield line. Hold position. Release the suns. One by one, the dawn ships unleashed their seeds. White fire erupted, flooding the battlefield. The void burned, and for a moment the dead system lived again. Alien ships screamed as their shields cracked, their hulls melting under the sudden blaze. The null core pulsed in rage, sending out waves of silence. Lights flickered, engines stalled, ships died without even firing. Fire and night clashed once more, but now it was not one against one. It was armada against armada. The battle tore the system apart. Dawn ships pushed forward, each one glowing like a second star. Human fighters darted between beams of fire, striking at enemy hulls. Smaller allies fought beside them, fragile wings of light against overwhelming dark. The null core pushed harder, its silence spreading like a tide. Ships dimmed, pilots screamed as their vessels froze mid-flight. But each time the darkness advanced, a dawn ship lit the void again, blinding the enemy, keeping the night at bay. On the flagship Helios, alarms screamed. "Containment breach in Seed 2, a voice cried. Admiral Cade's eyes stayed cold. "Stabilize it." Engineers scrambled, hands shaking as the seed strained against its prison. A crack in the glass sphere leaked blinding light, scorching the walls. One mistake, and the Helios would become a star too soon. The Admiral whispered to herself, not a prayer, but a vow. Not yet. Not until we've broken them. The battle raged for hours. Stars that had died began to glow again under the fury of human light, only to dim as the null core drank deeper. Entire ships on both sides vanished in bursts of fire and silence, and still neither side yielded. The galaxy itself seemed to bend under the struggle, torn between day and night. At last, Admiral Cade made her choice. She sent a single order to her fleet: converge. Focus all seeds on the core. The dawn ships turned, their fire aligning on the enemy's heart. Seeds blazed brighter than ever before, so bright that even Earth, light years away, saw a strange glow flicker in their night sky. The core resisted, its silence crushing, tearing power from ships, draining life from soldiers. But the humans pressed harder. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for every child who had been mocked, every world that had begged for light, every voice that refused to die in the dark. And then it happened. The null core cracked. For the first time, its pulsing light faltered. A scream echoed, not of voices, but of the void itself. Alien ships scattered in panic, some exploding as the core's silence swallowed them whole. A second later, Fire consumed the wound. A seed burst through, igniting like a spear driven into the heart of night. The core dimmed, its strength shattered. The battlefield froze in awe. Humanity had done the impossible, but victory was not whole. Half the Dawn fleet was gone. The Helios burned, drifting without engines. Thousands of soldiers were dead. And the core, though cracked, still lived. It pulsed weakly, retreating into the void, carried by the surviving alien ships. It was not destroyed, it was wounded. And a wounded beast was often the most dangerous. The surviving fleet limped home, dragging their dead, carrying their wounded. On Earth, bells rang not in mourning, but in warning. The ambassador spoke once more, his voice heavy with both triumph and dread. We struck the night and it bled, but it is not gone. The darkness will return, and when it does, we must be ready. For this is not the end of war, it is only the beginning. The galaxy trembled at his words. Allies prayed for dawn, enemies plotted in secret, and in the shadows between stars the cracked null core pulsed with quiet, hateful hunger. Earth did not celebrate long. When the Dawn fleet limped home, half its ships were gone, and the survivors carried scars too deep to hide. Cities cheered the victory at first, banners waved, children shouted, "We are the Dawn." But beneath the cheers ran fear. People whispered of the fleets that never returned, of the null core that had fled but not died, of the silence waiting in the stars. Victory felt heavy, almost hollow. Inside Earth's halls of power, the cracks began to show. Leaders who once spoke with one voice now argued behind closed doors. Some demanded more Dawn ships, more seeds, more weapons, no matter the cost. Others warned that humanity was walking the edge of destruction, that one mistake could turn their sons against them. In one meeting, a senator shouted, "If we build more, we might burn the galaxy." A general slammed his hand on the table. "If we do not build, the galaxy will burn us first." Silence followed, but not agreement. Suspicion grew between nations. Who would control the Dawn technology? Who would decide when to use it? Old rivalries stirred again, shadows of division that aliens had once mocked. Some nations whispered about building their own fleets in secret, not to fight aliens, but to defend themselves from other humans. The unity that had carried Earth through its first great battle was beginning to crack, and the aliens knew it. Spies moved through the cracks like water through broken stone. A research station in orbit was sabotaged, its seed stolen before it could be finished. Another lab on Earth's surface was bombed, the explosion blamed on accidents, though whispers told of alien hands. The most dangerous attack came not from weapons, but from whispers in human ears. Alien agents disguised themselves, spreading lies that certain leaders planned to betray others, that Dawn technology was already being sold to allies in secret. Fear grew sharper than blades. Soldiers questioned their commanders. Scientists guarded their work from one another. Humanity was still strong, but unity was bleeding away. The ambassador saw it with heavy eyes. He had once stood before the alien council, mocked and humiliated, and vowed Earth would rise. Now he stood before his own people, trying to hold them together. In a broadcast that reached every city, every station, he spoke plainly. "We won the first battle because we were one. If we break now, if we fall into fear and mistrust, then the night will return and it will devour us all. Do not forget, our enemy is not each other. Our enemy waits in the dark." His words stirred hope in some, but doubt lingered, for speeches alone could not erase suspicion. Meanwhile, the scientists who had built Project Dawn worked in deeper secrecy. They had seen the null core falter. They had seen it bleed, and they knew it would return stronger. Some wanted to push Project Dawn further. Bigger seeds, brighter stars, even weapons that could collapse suns into black holes. Others feared such steps. One scientist whispered late at night, "We are building not dawn, but judgment." Then came the betrayal. In a hidden chamber beneath the oceans, alarms blared. Guards rushed in to find the seed missing, an entire prototype gone. The chamber was sealed. No ships detected leaving, no signals sent. Yet the weapon had vanished. Panic spread. Who had taken it? No answer came, only silence. Some accused alien spies. Others suspected traitors within Earth's own ranks. The Council of Leaders nearly broke apart, fingers pointing, voices shouting. "You cannot prove it was not you." One nation cried at another. The ambassador slammed his hand on the table, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Listen to yourselves. This is what they want. They do not need to fight us with fleets if they can make us tear each other apart. His words calmed the room, but only for a moment. For the seed was still missing, and no one knew where it had gone. Far from Earth, the truth pulsed in darkness. The wounded null core floated, its crack slowly healing, fed by alien ships that bled their own energy into it. And beside it, glowing faintly, lay the stolen seed. The warlords watched with greedy eyes. "They built fire," one hissed. "Now we will twist it. Let them think they control the dawn. Soon we will turn their sun against them." On Earth, strange signals began to echo in the void. Flickers of light, faint but deliberate, carrying a message no one could decode. Some scientists swore it was alien. Others whispered it was human. All agreed on one thing: it was a warning. The galaxy shook as the null core returned. No longer cracked, no longer wounded, it burned with new power, power stolen from humanity itself. The missing seed glowed inside its dark heart, twisted and reshaped, a star chained in shadow. Alien fleets followed it like worshippers of death, their ships countless, their guns aimed at Earth. For the first time, even the bravest admirals whispered, "We may not survive this." Earth answered with everything it had left. The shipyards released the full Dawn fleet, larger than any armada humanity had ever dreamed. Dozens of carriers rose, each carrying a seed of day, each glowing like caged suns. Allies gathered too, small ships and fragile fighters, their voices trembling but their courage strong. It was not only humanity's war now. Every race that feared the night chose to stand in the light. The ambassador stood before the fleet, his face weary, his voice steady. His words were broadcast to every ship, every soldier, every child who looked at the sky. For they mocked us once. They feared us after. Now they have stolen from us. But listen well, we are not broken. We are not prey. We are the dawn, and we will not let the night win. The fleets met at the edge of a dying star, a system already half devoured by the null core's hunger. The battlefield burned with strange light, the star flickering weakly as if holding its breath. Then the war began. Alien ships rushed forward like a tide of black steel. The Dawn fleet answered with fire. Seeds erupted, newborn suns blazing against the void. Fighters darted between beams, allies struck with desperate courage. The dark and the light clashed, tearing the system apart. At the center pulsed the null core, its hunger stronger than ever. It swallowed light, crushed engines, silenced entire squadrons in a heartbeat. And within it, the stolen seed screamed, a human star chained, forced to serve the night. Admiral Cade, aboard the Helios Reborn, gave the order that would decide everything. Form the line. Push to the core, free our sun. The Dawn ships surged forward, their light combining into a single blazing spear. But the closer they came, the stronger the silence grew. Engines flickered. Shields cracked. Entire ships vanished, their crews swallowed by nothing. The ambassador watched from the command deck, his hands gripping the rail. "If we fail here," he whispered, "the galaxy will never see light again." Then in the heart of the chaos, something unexpected happened. The stolen seed inside the null core flared, just for a moment a spark of rebellion. Scientists watching from Earth gasped. "It is fighting," one cried. "The seed remembers its makers." The null core pulsed harder, trying to crush it, but the seed's light pushed back, faint but steady. Admiral Cade saw the flicker and made her choice. "All ships, channel your seeds into the stolen one. Give it strength." Light answers light. It was madness. Pouring their fire into the core risked collapse, risked destroying them all. But the fleet obeyed. One by one, Dawn ships focused their suns, beams converging on the core. The void blazed brighter than any battlefield in history. The core screamed in silence, its dark shell cracking. The stolen seed flared brighter, breaking its chains. For a heartbeat day-consumed night, the null core shattered. Its silence collapsed, torn apart by fire. Alien ships burst like dry wood in flame. The chained seed, freed at last, exploded into a star, igniting the dying system. Planets lit again, shadows fled, and the darkness was gone. But victory came at a terrible price. Most of the Dawn fleet was destroyed. Their seeds burned out, their crews lost to fire. Only a handful of ships remained, battered and broken, drifting in the glow of the newborn star. Among them was the Helios Reborn, its hull torn, its admiral barely breathing but alive. Earth wept for its dead, but the galaxy cheered. Worlds once silent sent messages of thanks, voices of hope. Species who had once mocked humanity now called them saviors. For the first time, Earth was not alone, not weak, not a child. It had stood against the night, and the night had fallen. The ambassador returned to the alien council, no longer mocked, no longer dismissed. He stood in silence until every eye was on him, then spoke the words that ended the war. "We did not seek this fight, but you brought it to us. You mocked us. You feared us. You tried to break us. Yet here we stand, and the stars burn with our hands. Remember this. If ever again the night rises, humanity will rise brighter. We are the dawn, and we will never let the light die." The council sat in silence. Not one dared to laugh. Not one dared to doubt. Far away, the newborn star burned strong, a reminder of the price of war and the power of unity. Humanity had carried fire into the heavens. And though the battle was over, though the darkness had fallen, one truth remained. The galaxy would never again mock Earth. For they had learned what dawn truly meant. The war was won, but peace was not. The galaxy lit candles for the fallen. Songs rose across worlds, and for a moment it felt like light had truly triumphed. Yet behind the cheers lay silence, an uneasy, waiting silence, because victory had left the galaxy scarred, and in the cracks of that scar new dangers stirred. The Dawn Fleet was broken. Only fragments remained, battered ships carrying ghosts. Earth's people tried to rebuild, but the price of victory weighed on them. Entire cities mourned. Families waited for voices that would never return. Factories strained to make more ships, but the seeds of light were not endless. Each required resources Earth could barely provide. Some scientists whispered the truth no leader wanted to hear. We cannot build more without destroying ourselves, and still humanity's name spread like fire. To many they were saviors. To others they were a warning. Rumors spread that humans had built weapons strong enough to kill suns, and perhaps to kill galaxies. Fear returned, not of the null core but of Earth itself. Old enemies, once united by desperation, now whispered of new coalitions, this time not against the night but against the dawn. The ambassador felt it in the council chamber. Where once there had been mockery, then silence, now there was tension. Delegates bowed their heads when he spoke, but their eyes held unease. One voice broke the air. "If humanity holds the keys to the stars, who will stop them if they choose to rule?" Others murmured in agreement. The ambassador answered with calm words, but he knew the truth. Fear had only changed its target. Meanwhile, strange signals haunted the edges of known space. At first they were thought to be echoes of the broken core, but soon the pattern grew clear. Someone or something was imitating the silence. Not as strong, not yet, but learning. Ships vanished along the borders. Stations went dark. The scientists gave it a name, the Fractured. No one knew if it was a remnant of the null core or something born from its death, but all agreed on one thing: it was watching. In secret, Earth's admirals debated. Should they rebuild the Dawn Fleet in full, even if it drained their world to ash? Or should they seek alliances, sharing the seed technology and risking betrayal? The council split. Some cried for unity, others for control. In the shadows, agents moved again, spreading lies, feeding paranoia. Humanity had survived the night, but could it survive itself? Then came the discovery that shook them all. Deep in the records of the final battle, buried in the scans of the newborn star, scientists found something impossible. The stolen seed, the one that had broken free of the core, had not only reignited the system, it had left behind a signal. Not a weapon, not a threat. A message. The message was simple, only 3 words, pulsing in light. We are many. The council erupted. Some argued it was a warning, proof that the null core had not died but multiplied. Others believed it was a cry for help, a sign that the seeds themselves were alive, that humanity had awakened something far older than the war. The ambassador read the words again and again, unease gnawing at his chest. If the seeds were alive, then every weapon they had built was not just fire, but something more, something they could not fully control. As the galaxy debated, ships of the Fractured drew closer. One border colony went silent, then another. No wreckage was found, only emptiness where life had once been. Panic spread, but the council hesitated. None wanted to follow humanity into another war. Some even accused Earth of inventing the threat to keep power. On Earth itself, people grew restless. They had tasted both unity and victory, and now they watched fear return. Riots broke in some cities, voices shouting that leaders were hiding the truth. Others begged for peace, for an end to endless battles. The ambassador stood again before his people, but his voice carried a weight even he could not disguise. "The dawn is never free," he said. "Every sunrise demands a night before it, and I fear our night is not yet over." In the darkness of uncharted space, the fractured stirred. Fragments of silence, learning, growing, waiting. And far deeper still, beyond even their reach, something older turned its gaze toward the newborn star, as if curious. The galaxy thought the war had ended. Humanity knew better. The stars had burned, but what else might now awaken in their fire?